Welcome to the Basketball Fiends podcast, a proud member of the Our Esquina Podcast Network. My name is Jesus Acevedo Jr., and I'm joined by one of Chicago's favorite sons, Alex Aguilera. What's new, Mr. Aguilera?
So my car, we had a little bit of a late start tonight. I mean, that doesn't affect our listeners. They can listen whenever we want, but we're starting a little late recording wise, and I mean, it was nobody's fault. I'm very grateful that I have a brother who is a very talented mechanic. Shout out Joe. Thanks for helping me out. So
Shout out Joe's Mechanic Shop. I don't know
if
that's the name of the shop, but anyways.
so shout out to him. So I went by his place originally to just put in new headlights in my car. And so he tells me to pop the hood open. I'm like, you gotta pull the lever, and he's like, I am. And I'm like, the hood isn't opening. So long story short, it took us a hot minute to open up my hood.
Huh?
Yeah, like I could not open up my hood, and he's like, did you do anything to it? I was like, dude, I haven't touched it since the last time you looked at my car. So he's like, okay. So he went under my car. We were getting ready to jack up my car just to open the hood. And then finally he was able to figure out that like the cable had like literally just popped off the latch.
Oh,
man. Right back in. Hood opens up fine. And, he was able to put in the headlights fine. But literally the amount of time it took us to open up the hood was the same amount of time it took for him to put the damn headlights in. So it was...
That's something you can even prepare for. I mean, what do you mean the hood's not opening? Like, it's like, what do you mean it's not opening? Like, right? Like, how would you?
Yeah.
Like
he looks at me and I'm just like, it's not opening. I'm looking at him like, aren't you pulling the thing? And he's like, yeah, I am. And I'm like, wait, okay, so that doesn't add up then. So it worked out.
Well, something I've come to learn is that with car trouble, there's so many moving parts. Like it could be the simplest thing, and in this case for you, it was the hood. What are the odds that the cable that holds the hood up or opens it just happen to snap? What are the odds? So now that's something else you have to fix, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's good. He literally just popped it right back into place, and it's set.
Perfect.
So
perfect. Well, as like I said, one of Chicago's favorite sons, you had a kind of a not bad Thursday, but kind of a unusual Thursday. Something else that was happening in Chicago Thursday night that you faithful listeners are listening to on Friday was the Chicago Bulls were taking on the New York Knicks, and the Chicago Bulls, Alex, they're off to a 4-1 start to the season. Now, before they faced the New York Knicks, they were 4-0 to start the season. The first time they've been 4-0. Sent some shooting guard by the name of Michael Jordan. Some people may have heard of him. So it's one of their best start to the season. What's the feeling in Chicago right now with these Bulls? Granted, they just had a very tough loss to another hot team in the New York Knicks. But still, what is the early consensus in Chicago about these young Bulls? Well, not young Bulls, but these Bulls in general.
Right. No, it's a very revamped Chicago Bulls team. A lot of excitement. It seems they just the Bulls just feel so rejuvenated now, with the moves of DeMar DeRozan and, Nikola Vucevic from last season, Alex Caruso. He's, meshing in very well with this team. Lonzo Ball has improved greatly, since his rookie season. So, all of that coming together, with Zach LaVine as the main guy there. It's nice to see that the Bulls are competitive now. And, granted a tough loss to the Knicks, but the Knicks were a playoff team last year, and they fought valiantly against the Atlanta Hawks, who made an Eastern Conference Finals run. But for our formidable squad, and I think I think we got a little excited because we were 4-0, but we played the Pistons twice, and they're not a very good team. So I think the Knicks were our first true test against a legitimate playoff team. I think they could be they can make the playoffs again this year. So it was good to see that they were able to make a little comeback and almost pull out a victory at home. But yeah, it's really exciting to see that the Bulls are competitive again.
I think you hit up on a couple of things, and I'm gonna start on the last thing that you sort of hinted at is the schedule that the Bulls have faced this season. While the team that they've played haven't been as tough or hard, look, at the end of the day, a team has to play the game that's scheduled for them. So instead of saying, "Oh, the Bulls have it easy," the conversation should be, "The Bulls are taking care of business against teams they're supposed to beat," because that
Exactly. Yeah.
wasn't always the case in years past.
Yeah.
So now because of the talent that the Bulls front office has put together, those are the teams that they should beat and take those wins. Because when they face these tough teams, while they're still learning how to play together against these tough teams, they may not always get the win. But those early wins, they're going to help them get into that spot. As the season goes on, they're going to learn how to play better and learn how to play better down the stretch against some of these tough teams, like you said, against the New York Knicks. But the first point you brought up was, I think, is key, is the Bulls season. The Bulls off-season acquisitions have paid off so far in this 4-1 star. DeMar DeRozan, Lonzo Ball, Alex Caruso, they have each played to their potential and then some. I think in these early games we've seen, DeMar taking on a closer role in close games, while Ball and Caruso have flexed their defensive abilities. And I think of the other players, I've been more surprised by Alex Caruso, the kind of impact that he's had on this team. I know we saw him play with the Los Angeles Lakers, but I think he's taking on this role like he was, because he's getting more playing time than he was with the Lakers too, if I'm not mistaken. And he's just taking that with the plum, and he's just making the best of it. And there was also some like couple of dunk highlights as well, or maybe that was in the preseason. But yeah, so, and something else that I want to touch upon is that this movement by the Bulls front office to have them return to prominence started in last season's NBA trade deadline when they swung a trade for Nikola Vucevic. I think that was the first kind of seeds of the commitment for front office that they want to better this Chicago Bulls team.
Yeah, I mean that first move by our tourist and company kind of showed that, okay, like the Bulls are actually finally starting to make some moves, go after some big name guys. I mean, I don't think Nikola Vucevic is like a household name quite yet. I mean, he is a, was it, two-time All-Star? Well,
Yeah.
he's an All-Star, one of the better power forwards in the league, and to be able to go and get that guy from Orlando, it was like, oh,
I mean,
okay,
look,
like,
that guy can go for 30 and 10 any night if he wanted
yeah,
to. He has that kind of skill and talent.
right, right. And in years past, especially, I would say with the the Gar Pax era, they weren't really known for making splashes, as far as like at the trade deadline or anything like that. They would make some free agency moves here or there, but nothing that really stuck or lasted for the most part. But you saw that and you're like, oh, okay, like they're like Arturis and them, like they're going after it, like they're going after guys. And you saw that even more so with Lonzo Ball. And I think people were a little bit surprised that the Bulls picked up Alex Caruso and then the DeMar DeRozan move. So it was kind of like, oh, okay, they're getting some recognizable names. And I know there was questions about whether or not how they would uh mesh together. Would there be some chemistry issues on the defensive side? I mean, we see Caruso now, he looks great. We all know Lonzo Ball is a great defender. DeMar DeRozan, I think so far, I mean, he's such a seasoned vet. We all saw what he did in Toronto, and what little time he had in San Antonio. So I mean, I'm excited for this Bulls team. I mean, I don't think that they're at that championship level by any means, but it's really nice to see that they can play some competitive basketball.
It's definitely playoffs or bust for the Bulls. They're definitely
Yes.
not title
Yeah.
contenders, but they
Yeah.
have to make the playoffs. And look, let's not forget, Zach LaVine is playing for a contract. This is a contract year for him. So that's just another extra boost for the Bulls, because that he's going out there and trying to have the best season possible. So that's also boost. Somebody else that the Bulls picked up in the offseason was Evan Fournier. Not in the offseason, sorry, in the last season NBA trade deadline. Uh Unfortunately, he didn't re-sign with them. He did sign with the New York Knicks, who the Bulls did face Thursday night, and the Knicks pulled off a 104-103 victory over the Chicago Bulls. The Knicks are another team that has just picked up where they left off last season, Alex. They've been shooting the leather off the basketball en route to their hot start, and especially from the three-point line. Entering Thursday's matchup against the Bulls, 48% of the Knicks shots were from beyond the arc, and they're hitting them at a high clip. And of course, you already know about their defense and what Tom Thibodeau does. But I think two big pickups for them was Kemba Walker and Evan Fournier. Evan Fournier is a versatile playmaker that kind of something that I feel they were missing last year. They had Alfred Payton, but he wasn't giving them what they wanted. He was more of a ball stopper, talented player, but not what they wanted. I think Evan Fournier fits more of what Tom Thibodeau wants to do, and I think kind of takes the pressure off of Derrick Rose and Julius Randle to go create. Now you can have Evan Fournier, go make me a play, whether it's score, pass the ball. So, and of course, Kemba Walker, we know what he can do. He's
Yeah, yeah, yeah. To Kemba Walker, I mean, I think with the Knicks, he sort of found his niche a little. Uh, I guess place to call home. And I mean, he is from New York, so even more so. I think when he left Charlotte, we saw a little bit of drop off from him. We all thought, the Boston move was a good fit for him. We all thought he would mesh well there, and it didn't quite work out. But I think you're gonna see Kemba Walker do very well with the Knicks, and I mean, it's early on, but it looks like he's at home and quite literally, not both figuratively and literally, at home. And I love how you mentioned Evan Fournier as a playmaker. It just opens up the floor even more so on the offensive end. So it's like we all know, like, Julius Randle is their probably main option on offense, and that having Kemba Walker there accompanies that. We all know Derrick Rose, he can be a playmaker and score, but now it alleviates some of that pressure off of him, that he doesn't have to be the sole playmaker there. Evan Fournier can come in as sort of like a second unit guy, whereas when Derrick Rose is out the floor, Evan Fournier is right in there, to create that playmaking ability when Rose is off the floor. So yeah, man, the Knicks got a squad, and they are, like you said, they're picking up right where they left off.
and getting back to the defensive side of things, I think this season they're probably going to make a bigger jump in the defensive ratings, because of Tom Thibodeau. But I think also players are taking it upon themselves. It's been widely reported that RJ Barrett, he said he has to go this season. He wants to be on an all defensive team. And I love that he's come out and said that. And look, the early returns prove that he have a shot if he keeps it up. Earlier this week, they were playing Boston, and in a very tight game, Barrett played some outstanding defense on Jason Tatum to force Tatum to take some tough shots down the stretch and in overtime. And look, it's only 5 games, right? So it's still a lot of season remains to be seen. But the fact that RJ Barrett wants to take that step in his career and be like, I want to be a great defensive player. I want to be that kind of player for my team. I think it's just going to help the Knicks even more into the season.
Yeah, and even though it's 5 games in, just to see it this early on in the season is a good sign, for Knicks fans to see that already. And I mean, he put the clamps down on DeMar DeRozan in this Bulls game. I don't know if you had seen that, but I mean, DeRozan, tried to pull up mid range, and RJ Barrett put the clamps down on him. Like, DeMar DeRozan had a very tough look, and I mean, I don't even think the ball hit the rim. So I mean, RJ Barrett did his job to seal that win for the Knicks. So I mean, if he's gunning for all defensive team, he's off to a good start.
He's off to a good start. And one last note on the Bulls and the New York Knicks. Some people, I guess some fans on social media are kind of like trying to pander down or trying to contain the Bulls fans and the Knicks fans fandom. But look, here's what I'll say. This tweet came across my timeline, so I want to share this tweet. This is from Tommy Beer. He said, over the past 5 seasons, the Bulls 199 losses and the Knicks 195 losses have lost more games than every other team in the NBA over the past 5 seasons. That's a lot of losses for 2
Yeah,
teams that were
yeah,
powerhouses in the 90s. So
yeah.
enjoy this, Bulls fans and Knicks fans. Enjoy this moment. And look, I know there's other hot teams out there right now that we could talk about. We could talk about the Charlotte Hornets, who I was hot on last year. Memphis Grizzlies are also playing really good. Cleveland Cavaliers are playing very good. But I think the reason why I want to talk about the Knicks and the Bulls is because I think of all the hot teams right now, I think they're the ones that can sustain it in the long term. Granted, there's obviously the typical clubs that are hot. They're not hot to me. They're just doing what they are always doing, right? But we were speaking about RJ Barrett. RJ Barrett was the third draft pick in the was a third round draft pick in 2019. The player that was drafted ahead of him was Ja Morant. And Ja Morant has come out of this season smoking. Like that man is coming out just guns blazing. He Thursday's games as a leading league scorer with 30 points per game. And I believe this is the season when Morant will make that leap to All Star and maybe All NBA player. At the very least, he's going to be in the discussion for All NBA player. But if he keeps it up, there's no reason he's not in the All Star game, Alex.
Yeah, honestly, like everyone's talking about John Morant having this breakout season, and it doesn't surprise me at all. I was super high on. I think we talked about it. I think I was more high on John Morant than I really was with Zion Williamson. I was more on the hype train with Ja, where I just saw this explosive athleticism. I mean, it's just crazy that the bunnies that dude has, and I mean, he dropped like what 40 against the Lakers,
Yep.
and it was what game 4 of the season, and he's already doing that. That's not bad, and I think I want to say too, he's improving his shot a little bit more, which you definitely
He's been
need
more
in this league.
consistent. He's consistent from behind the arc this season,
Yeah.
and if that shot starts falling consistent, forget about
hmm
it.
I mean, you figure this guy can slash down the lane, and finish at the rim, and now for him to be able to shoot consistently now, because I think that was one of um I guess a con for him last season was, I mean, he could shoot the ball, but not with too much consistency. But I think we're starting to see that now this season. So I mean, sky's the limit for him, man. I mean, and like I said, I'm not surprised by this. I'm not surprised by this jump at all. It was like only a matter of time. I would say maybe it's a little bit surprising that it's happening so early on. It looks like in year 2, no, not year 2.
Year 3.
Year 3, I'm sorry. I'm thinking year 3. It just damn pandemic season just threw everything off. We're like a year and a half has passed, and we're already like through 3 NBA seasons.
Yeah.
It's nuts. But yeah,
Well, no,
man. I
look,
mean,
I think you hit it on the
yeah,
head. That he's getting to the rim with ease and
yeah.
finishing with acrobatic skills that remind someone of a Derrick Rose or even a Michael Jordan early on in his career. And here's a quote that I pulled from Yahoo Sports on the chip that Moran has on his shoulder. And I quote, I feel like it took me averaging 35 points a game to finally get some all-star recognition, but I really can't speak too much on that. I feel like my chip will never leave. So I feel he reminds me of kind of a Damian Lillard, not in their game styles, but the mentality, because they both came from mid, not college powerhouses. They were both like, mid, maybe lower, but they carried their college programs to new heights. And so that's what he reminds me of. And here's another tweet that I want to highlight. And look, I don't always agree with what Kendrick Perkins takes. He always says some things that are a bit out there, but I have to give him props. This is, I think, spot on. Spot on. He said, Moran is athletic like Russell Westbrook, crafty like Kyrie Irving, and can drop dimes like Rajon Rondo. That's pretty much, if you put those 3 skills together, that's Ja Morant. He is pretty much must watch TV for the rest of this season.
Yeah, man, just like ultra talented. As a point guard. I mean, he's a little undersized, but I mean, it doesn't matter. You like those 3 points right there. He makes it up for, being a playmaker, being able, to score. His athleticism. So I mean, I mean, just to show it so early on in his career, man. Like the Memphis Grizzlies can be a problem, and they're already showing signs that they can very well be a big problem in the Western Conference in
They
the
made
next
a
couple years.
they made a great move in the offseason. I believe it was in the offseason when they traded for I'm blanking now. Oh, Steven Adams. I thought that was a genius pickup by them, kind of like your enforcer down low. And they have a good team. I would not be surprised to make a playoff tournament run, maybe one of those 9 or 10 seeds. I mean, they were there last year, so maybe it's even a higher seeding. I think maybe 6 or 7 is not out of the realm of possibility, because they're going to be a hard out for any team the rest of the season. And over the last few days, Alex, I've had a thought rattling in my brain. Years from now, will we look at the 2019 NBA draft how we look at the 2007 draft? And by that, I mean where Greg Oden was taking number 1 and Durant taking number 2. because 3 seasons removed from the 2019 NBA draft, there's no question right now that Morant is the best player from that draft class. And an argument could be made that he should have been picked first by the Pelicans. I think you were kind of sort of hinting at that you like Ja Morant coming out of college more than Zion. It's kind of now 3 years in, maybe that's a question we should be asking. Should Ja Morant have gone number one?
Should he have gone number one? I mean, at the time, I would say, I mean, with Zion, just the polarizing just talent that he had, coming out of Duke and all that. I mean, obviously, like the high school mixtape that he had, just all the attention that he was getting. I mean, I get why he went number one, but sort of like what you're seeing now, I guess longevity wise, I mean, I didn't necessarily see, I guess, injuries being an issue for Zion. I just really thought John Morant was gonna end up being a better player than Zion. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say like by any means Zion is a bust. I
Not at
mean,
all. I think
I
it's way too early to say that. Yeah.
yeah, I think just with all the hype around him and just sort of coming out the gates, um, sort of what we're seeing from John Morant right now is what we were expecting from Zion, and we haven't quite seen that yet. We've seen most definitely flashes from it, but not quite to the standard that I guess once again like what we were expecting.
Look, I think you hit it. Zion, everything we saw from him in high school and in college, and the name that he had with them, and he already had shoe contracts. Like all that came with it, and there was no way that a team like the Pelicans could pass up on him, just because also the exposure that he would bring to that franchise. But 3 years in, he's had an injury-prone start to his career. He's currently out with an injury and is scheduled to undergo scans on his right foot this week to decide the next step in his recovery. But at the time of us recording this episode, Alex, there is no timetable for his return. Now, he is in his predicament because he suffered a broken foot over the summer. And now, look, the team clearly wants him out on the court. But to date, Ja Morant has played in 135 games to Zion Williamson's 85. That's very drastic difference.
Yeah,
And once you tally the games that Zion missed in the first season, he missed I have it right here. Zion missed 58 games in his rookie season with a knee injury and missed 11 games last season. Now, when you total this season's games, whatever he'll miss, at the end of his third season, we could be talking about maybe Zion missing a whole season's worth of games.
yeah,
That has to be concerning for the Pelicans and for Zion. I mean, we all saw the pictures. He's been eating. He's been eating good. Let's just say, he looks like he's bulked up. May have to hit the weight room, but it's a concern that 3 years in he's been injury prone. But I think, like you said, it's way too early to call him a bust. He's definitely not that. Because
right.
look, when he's played, he's performed.
Yeah.
The problem is,
Yep.
can we get you on the court?
Right. Can Zion Williamson get back to the court and can he stay on the court? I think you could see a scenario where it's like a Joel Embiid. I mean, early on in his career, like the dude could not stay healthy at all. And we were all and like this conversation we're having now, they like
He's
people
my
were
dark
having
horse.
with Joe.
He's my pick for MVP. So yeah.
Right. So years back we were talking about, oh my God, did Philly just like waste a pick on Joel Embiid? The process is already off to a bad start, and now like he's their guy. He's already, excuse me, an MVP candidate, or has been the last couple seasons. So in the case with Zion, I think the Pelicans, you do have to, I guess, definitely monitor his health and see, is this a guy that when he gets back on the court, can he stay healthy, and can he be the franchise player that we drafted him to be? Because that's pretty much what it is. He was touted as this generational talent that we hadn't seen since LeBron. I mean, that was the talk around him. That's why he got picked number one overall. Number one overall, and the Pelicans couldn't pass that up. So now, year three, how do you assess, the timetable, however long it takes for him to get back? Because we saw like in year one, they were being super careful about him when he got back to the floor. The time management and all that stuff. So, bringing bringing that back, however they handle that whenever you decide, not whenever he decides, whenever he's
I
ready
want
to
to play
play.
right now.
Right now, whenever he decides, whenever his body allows him, so that he's healthy enough. So yeah, man, the Pelicans are definitely in a, they're it isn't like the sirens are blaring and everybody panic, but it's something that they definitely have to keep in mind.
Yeah, it may have to be a situation where he may have to maybe slim down somewhat, to where, or maybe it's the way his workout regime, or change something up so that way he can avoid these injuries. Because I think that's a perfect example is Joel Embiid. First couple of seasons just could not get on the court. When he was on the court, wow, okay, I can see why he was picked number one. Oh, here he is injured again. So I think that's a perfect comparison. So that's what I think. It's 3 years in. It's still too early. Watch. He'll probably come back in a couple months. He's just gonna take the league by a storm and show everybody why he was number one. That can definitely be a possibility. But right now, at this moment, we're recording this on Thursday, October 28th. Ja Morant is clearly the best player in the 2019 draft, and he's showing it. Because third year, usually for the top players that are drafted, this is when they usually start to make that leap right into whatever player they're going to be in the league. And we're seeing that John Moran has that potential, and is showing that potential, and is taking that leap this season. What I will say for the Pelicans is that we're starting to see Brandon Ingram come out of his shell a lot more this season. Well, because they need him to, right? They need him to pick up the slack, and he's been doing a solid job. The Pelicans are, the Pelicans still not doing as good, but they're missing Zion. So it'll definitely be interesting how you see how they bring him up. I'm sure they just want him to be as healthy as possible. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's a similar situation to his rookie season where they manage his time, bring him back slowly. Because I don't think I'm going out on a limb on saying that anybody's expecting much from the Pelicans this year as far as playoffs or title, right?
Yeah.
So if anything, you want this young team to just keep on playing together, keep on learning, and keep on gelling. The number one thing is get Zion healthy and get him on the court.
Yeah, man. I mean, hey, trust the process, I guess. I mean, Philly did it, and I mean, it worked out okay. I mean, you can make whatever judgment you want on how Philly's process turned out, or if they're still going through the process. I don't even know at this point. But in the case with Zion Williamson, I mean, you just gotta be cautious about it, because I mean, it's the number one overall pick. This is your future right here, so you want to make sure that you're doing everything in your power to make sure that number one, that he's healthy, and that when he's on the floor he can lead this Pelicans team to greater heights. Because I mean, let's be honest, the Pelicans haven't seen much success in in a while. Even with Anthony Davis, they only went so far. And so now that he's gone, Zion, it's Zion's time.
Definitely is. Definitely is. Well, as if you faithful listeners couldn't figure out, Zion Williamson was our fourth basketball topic of this 31st episode of the Basketball Fiends. But here, as we're wrapping it up, Alex, what are your plans for this weekend?
Well, I gotta work, so
You got to work. Oh, well, are you going to the game, to the Chicago Bears, like working the Chicago Bears game?
no, I won't be. I won't be at Soldier Field. I'll be in the offices, but I mean, I'll be cutting clips for social. So I mean,
Nice.
nothing too crazy. So can't
Nice,
complain.
nice. Can't complain. Well, I will spend my weekend watching the Houston Astros take on the Atlanta Braves. People can see my shirt here on YouTube. Represent the
Mm,
Houston Astros from White Cup, and they make great shirts. Check them out once again. Giving
I
a proper
probably
yes.
should make. I probably should make. Might as well just put it out there that I am rooting for Atlanta.
Oh, you son of a. Well, see, they put out this graph. I guess they must have done a survey. Every state except for three states are rooting against the Astros. Obviously, Texas is rooting for the Astros.
Right.
Louisiana is rooting for the Astros, and Delaware. All right, Delaware. You just now.
Delaware is so random. I had seen that graph and I was like, why is Delaware, like going for it's so random.
It is random. Louisiana, I can understand because they don't have a team, and I think from things I've seen in the past, there've been a lot of Astros fans from Louisiana. But yeah, Delaware took me by surprise. But you know what? I wouldn't visit Delaware now. All of a sudden, I'm a Delaware fan.
I don't like. I've never been to Delaware. I don't really know what's in Delaware, but I guess they like the
A bunch
Houston
of Astros
Astros.
fans. That's why, or they
I
probably
guess.
hate the Braves.
Yeah, I mean, they're like Jesus. Like, what is in Delaware? Not to be bogus, but damn, like I don't know what's in Delaware. Like I don't know what type of connection Delaware has to this World Series that
Has to be maybe.
they're rooting for the Astros. I don't know.
Yeah, that one took my surprise. But hey, a lot of Houston fans became Delaware fans just based on that grab. They were like, all right, you're invited to the carne asada. You're invited to the championship parade if we're able to pull it off.
And how far is Delaware from Texas anyway?
It's pretty. I think it's above York, so it's out there in the Northeast.
God, that's just.
It is random.
Well, I expose how bad my geography is, but yeah, I don't know. That's just Delaware. I don't know.
Well, hopefully next week's episode will be a happier one. Well, not happier one. This one's happy. I meant to say no, but I'll be cheering that the Astros have won. Or I think the series will be Thursday. Will be Game 7 if it goes that far. So we'll see. So far, it's been a pretty good series. So yeah, but that's it for us today for this 31st episode of the Basketball Fiends. Thank you so much for listening, and don't forget to subscribe. See ya.
Deuces.